David Parker.
So, on this first call on part two, Mr. Chairman, I would like to address one of the changes that is made in terms of the deductions that are proposed to be made to earnings-related compensation. The bill proposes that where someone at the time of their accident has holiday pay that is due to them, that holiday pay be deducted from the earnings-related compensation that is paid to them. Now, the Treasury, in one of the briefing papers that the Treasury gave to the government in respect of this provision, pointed out, firstly, that this particular provision doesn't save much money, but more importantly, said that they were concerned about the principle, because what it's saying is that people should have deducted from their post-accident earnings in the form of earnings-related compensation, pre-accident earnings. Because holiday pay that has accrued as at the date of accident is something that is due to the employee as a consequence of the pre-accident earnings. It is an asset that is then theirs. If you think about how this applies in practice, you can see the inequity of it because of the arbitrary and inconsistent way it applies. If you were an employee who was entitled to 4 weeks annual leave and you had taken your annual leave just prior to the accident, you have no accrued holiday pay, and therefore there is no deduction made from your earnings-related compensation. But if you were soon to take your holiday, if the claimant was soon to take their holiday but hadn't yet taken it and suffered an accident, then in that case, deducted from their earnings-related compensation would be their accrued holiday earnings. And that was the concern that the Treasury noted. They said that the principle of the accident compensation scheme is that you are compensated for your lost earnings, and there is no policy justification for deducting accrued holiday pay. And indeed, as I think I have illustrated, the effects are arbitrary and therefore unfair as between earners. And again, I return to the underlying justification that the government has used in support of these claims, and that is one of affordability of the scheme, and remind the Minister that the only information that we had as to cost comparisons of the New Zealand scheme compared with overseas schemes showed that the New Zealand costs for employers are considerably lower per $100 of earnings than those paid by Australian employees per $100 of Australian workers' earnings. Now, we know that the administrative costs of the scheme in New Zealand are low. We know that the cost for employer levies in New Zealand is considerably lower, and therefore the justification for what I think is an inappropriate change to this, which effectively takes from the injured employee pre-accident earnings in respect of their post-accident needs, is just bad policy and wrong. It's not justified on a cost basis. In the prior part, the Minister criticised the opposition for not referring to costs in the non-earner account and in the earner account, which are two other ACC accounts. And my response to that is that, of course, the opposition doesn't have that information. It was not provided to the Select Committee by the government, so how we can be criticised for not providing what the government ought to have provided beats me. The best information that we have in respect of costs of other parts of the scheme is probably the information that we have in respect of the parts of the scheme that we do have costs on, and that is that the costs in the New Zealand scheme are lower by a considerable margin than Australia, and I believe lower than schemes in most other parts of the world. So I cannot see the justification for forcing...
Well,